Morning, all. Chaos. Yeah, I don't know quite what happened there. Let me try it with the microphone now. Oh dear, that's a good start. I don't know quite what happened. I think I misread the time. I thought I've got plenty of time to go and make myself a cup of coffee, and then my alarm rang to say I should have been starting. So quick dash to the kitchen, and I finally got here. So good. Let me start again with the microphone. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're well. Me, I'm sweating nicely. I was sweating nicely before, but even more so now. For the past week or two, we've had all the doors and windows open here at Demolition News Towers, and the place has a pleasant, cool breeze blowing through it. It's currently tipping it down here, so all the windows are now closed, and it feels like a sauna in here. Spare a thought. Also for my oldest son's girlfriend. She's a school teacher, and yesterday morning she took about 60 children on a camping trip to Box Hill, just up the road from me. Around 4 a.m. this morning, there was a massive thunderstorm, followed by near biblical levels of rain. I feel her pain. Having done the Glastonbury Festival in the rain a couple of times myself, I know exactly what it feels like to be under canvas when the heavens open. Now, I do have something exciting to tell you, which would have been a lot more ready had I been ready. There we are. Yes, we have a date for your diary. As you know, I was in Italy very recently on a top secret mission. Well, the secret is now out. I was there to see one of the largest demolition excavators the world has ever seen. That you're looking at there is the Jumbo, owned by Despe. That is based on a Cat 6015B mining excavator, that all 351 tons of it. Now, I am the only journalist that has been allowed to see the machine in action, and at 7 p.m. on Wednesday next week, we will be revealing all live. The film we produced on the machine is only about 7 minutes long. There'll be other films as well, but this one is only about 7 minutes long, so we won't be taking up your entire evening. But if you'd like to be among the first to see this massive new unit in action, please be sure to tune in. That is 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 28th of June. Can't wait to share that one with you. If I say so myself, Fred has done a fantastic job on the footage. Now, without further ado, and this will allow me to catch my breath, hopefully. Without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get the show on the road. It is Tuesday, the 20th of June. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, we are going compact with Wacker Neuson track loaders. Dynaset is cleaning up, and XCMG is bringing out the big guns. Plus, and I'd like a little discussion on this one, if you're ready, willing, and able. Are conveyors the solution to the fuel cost crisis? We're going to get to all of that in just a second. But first, let's take a very quick peek back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this day in history. On this day in 1756, 146 British soldiers, together with Anglo-Indian soldiers and civilians, were imprisoned in a small dungeon where most would ultimately die of suffocation. That dungeon would become known as the Black Hole of Calcutta. Real thing. In 1837, an 18-year-old Queen Victoria ascended to the throne, and she would be sat on the same throne for another 63 years. In 1840, Samuel Morse, the fellow with the code, patented his telegraph system. In 1936, American sprinter Jesse Owens set a new 100-meter world record of 10.2 seconds. In 1967, boxer Cassius Clay / Muhammad Ali was sentenced to 5 years for refusing to be inducted into the armed forces during the Vietnam War. And in 1975, my favorite movie, came out. The movie Jaws was released. It came out in cinemas and immediately emptied seas around the world of people. Still not entirely comfortable with swimming in the sea to this day. What is that? 48 years later? Yeah, very uncomfortable. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, let me remind you of the question of the day, which came to us courtesy of Gary Muirhead yesterday. But here is that question of the day. Yes, when you're eating a sandwich and you have crisps alongside, are you putting your crisps in the sandwich? Is that the kind of person you are? Or are you a crisps separate kind of guy or girl? Personally, I'm a crisps with rather than a crisps in. There is a reason for it, and I'm just not making this up. This is absolutely fact, and I lie awake at night fearful of this. I like me a kettle chip. Don't know if everybody else does. But if they are wrongly aligned within a sandwich, I reckon they could probably pierce right through your gums and into your brain. Scientific fact-ish. So I am very much crisps out, but purely for health and safety reasons, not because I'm a weirdo. But how do you prefer yours? Let me know in the chat, and we'll come back to that at the end of the show. But thanks again, Gary, for coming up with an excellent question of the day. And we're going to begin today with compact track loaders, or more specifically, Wacker Neuson compact track loaders. Now, I know our American cousins love them, a compact track loader, almost as much as they love a skid steer. Yet here in the UK, still seen as a bit of a specialist item. Maybe this film will convince you otherwise.
Hi, I'm John Dotto. I'm a product application and training specialist with Wacker Neuson, and we're going to talk about the top 5 features on the Wacker Neuson ST27 compact track loader in no particular order. So I'm going to say number 1 is compact powerhouse. At 60 inches wide, under 80 inches tall, but still at 74 horsepower, pushing an operating weight of 7,350 pounds. The power to weight ratio on the ST27 is best in this size class by far. Number 2, we're going to talk about industry-leading serviceability, which continues with the ST27 and is now aided by a cyclonic pre-cleaner, which is going to assist in improving the service life of your air filter elements, leading to less downtime and lower total cost of ownership. Number 3 is going to be operator comfort. The ST27, being offered as a EH joystick only machine, has loads of room inside the cab, foot room, headroom. You've got ventilation in the headliners. Everything is ergonomically placed for the operator and in line of sight, making operation comfortable on the ST27. Number 4 is going to be some new innovations, including automatic 2-speed. Automatic 2-speed is going to automatically adjust the speed range depending on the application and the operator's joystick command movements. So if the machine thinks you need to travel more quickly, it's going to kick you into auto 2-speed. If you don't want it, you can turn it off. If you want to run old school and push buttons, you certainly can do that. But with auto 2-speed, we're taking a lot of input out of the hands of the operator and making things automatic. A first in the industry is our auto 2-speed system. And number 5, panoramic visibility. With the low profile loader arm design on the ST27, it really opens up the view to the side of the cab, and our new design on the vertical linkage, the H-link across the rear of the machine, being out of line of sight of the operator, makes for panoramic visibility whether the rear, the side, or the front of the machine. Those are just the top 5 features on the Wacker Neuson ST27, but there's a whole lot more you can learn about. And you can do that at wackerneuson.com, or you can contact your local Wacker Neuson dealer for more information.
Now, I'm thinking here not just about Wacker Neuson, but also the likes of Bobcat. Given all the attachments available for compact loaders and for skid steers, I think we may be missing a trick by not embracing their just sheer versatility. But what say you? Are we missing a trick on this side of the pond? Love to get your thoughts. Let me have this. I have a little something I'd like to discuss with you in just a few moments. But before we get to that, let's talk XCMG. Now, when some companies roll out their latest mining equipment, they do so quietly and with the minimum possible fanfare. The Chinese? Yeah, not so much. Not particularly subtle, but I have to say the machines look very good. I don't have too many regrets in life, but I do have one that really stands out whenever I see something like that. Back in October 2019, I was supposed to be going to see the fine folks at XCMG in China, and I had to pull out because I was having my eye socket fixed after my demolition accident, so I couldn't go. And here we are 4 years later, and I've never been to China, never been to XCMG, still kicking myself over that. But being the NHS, they wouldn't push it back. So China had to take a back step, I'm afraid. Maybe one day. XCMG, if you're watching, please invite me again. I'd love to come. Okay, discussion time. So we all know we're staring down the barrel of a major shift in energy source in the demolition, construction, mining and quarrying business. Will it be electric that takes the place of diesel? Will it be hydrogen? Will it be something else? Well, while that discussion is going on, companies are desperately seeking ways in which to minimize their diesel consumption. We've seen manufacturers adding systems to shut off engines when machines idle for too long. We've seen users turning to telematics to monitor fuel consumption. But I watched this video that you're about to see last night, and I wondered if we might be on the cusp of an even more fundamental shift. Take a look at this. So, bearing in mind that some operations might have 2 or more wheel loaders, feeding the crusher or screen, maintaining stockpiles, loading and carrying, and then loading trucks, are we missing a trick by not using conveyors more wisely? Imagine the cost savings if you could take 1 or more wheel loaders out of the equation entirely. Saving on fuel, saving on oil and lubricant, saving on tyres. Slightly uncomfortable with this one, but potentially saving on somebody's wages as well. And imagine the potential safety benefits of removing a piece of mobile equipment and replacing it with something mostly static. Okay, you people know these operations way better than I do. But are the fine folks at Kleeman onto something here? Please discuss. Tell me where I'm wrong. You normally do. Yeah, let me throw up one of these while you're thinking about it.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Cleanliness, they say, is next to godliness, which is why I have a shower before I start the show each and every day, even though the only person that's likely to smell me is me. Those fine folks at Dynaset certainly believe that a clean road is better than a dirty one, and they've devised an entire suite of systems to ensure that clean roads remain that way.
Hello everybody, my name is Janne Hietamäki and I'm an area sales manager here in Dynaset. Today we are going to be talking about street cleaning and the different options and solutions that we provide on that field. A typical way of cleaning a street is using a sweeper truck or a sweeper attachment on a loader. The good part is that you get to clean a lot of sand, debris and trash with a single drive and collect it. The downside is that you release always quite a bit of dust in the air, and that, especially on residential areas, is a no-no. In that case, the Dynaset HPW dust system comes in handy because by installing a single high pressure water pump and nozzles pointed to the brooms, you can actually control the dust from spreading in the air. The heart of the dust system is the HPW high pressure water pump. Why to use high pressure water in dust suppression? Well, you use a minimal amount of water and you don't actually wet the ground, but you still get great results on dust suppression. For instance, a small HPW 160 pump or a medium size HPW 250 or the larger one, the HPW 220, which are displayed here on the table, they are all available with the dust systems. When the cleaning result from a sweeper is not enough and all the pores on the clean surface are still clogged with dirt, you can use a KPL street washing unit. A KPL consists a HPW high pressure water pump, and it's got a spray bar in the front to be used kind of like a snow plow to be washing all the pores and pushing the dirt in front of the unit to get a good clean result. With a KPL unit, you get a good clean result, and you get the hand washing option for corners and places you cannot drive and clean. You can equip any kind of a loader with a KPL unit because we manufacture hitches for all types of loaders, skid steers and tractors. Also, we manufacture a truck mounted model, so it can be on a truck. One more option on street cleaning is the SCU surface cleaning unit. What are the differences between the KPL and the SCU is actually the surface cleaners beneath the water tanks of the SCU unit. What they actually do, they spray point down towards the surface, meaning that they clean all the pores on the surface, and it has an HCF, centrifugal fan, to create a vacuum and collect the water and debris that is washed out of the surface. This comes in handy, especially when you have regulations that you cannot leave the gray water on the surface that you clean, or you have places where you don't want to be spattering water around. So in a nutshell, we looked at the HBW dust system for sweepers, especially good on residential areas where you don't want to be having the dust floating around in the air. The KPL, the street washing unit, for better and cleaner results. And the SCU, even better results since it has those surface cleaning units underneath. A lot more information is available from our website, social media, and YouTube channel, so please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, have a great day.
I found that very satisfying. I don't know about you. Almost as satisfying as jet washing my front drive. Now, from things that make me happy to things that make me just ever so slightly angry. My gripe today might be entirely specific to my family. If that is the case, I can only apologise for using this public platform to take to task the uncaring swine that I live with. I am reliant upon electrical power. I feel bad about it, and I wish there was something I could do to reduce my energy consumption, but somewhere there is a small solar farm dedicated entirely to meeting my need for power. In my office, I have a charging station set up to ensure that my Apple Watch and my laptop are permanently powered to the max. In my front room, my iPad and my AirPods are on charge, so they're ready at a moment's notice. And by my bed, I have a charger for my iPhone. Last night, like most nights, I put all my devices on charge, but things look very different when I awoke this morning. For a start, my iPhone didn't charge at all, as my son, not Fred, the other one, had used the socket in my bedroom to charge his beard trimmer, and he had taken my iPhone plug out of the wall and not replaced it. I didn't realise, so my phone is basically empty right about now. In fact, it barely had enough charge left to wake me up this morning. I came into my office this morning to find that my Apple Watch was in the middle of my desk while another one was sat on my charger. Haven't yet figured out who that watch belongs to. And when I reached for my iPad about half an hour ago, not only was it not charged, but the charger cable was missing. I realise that having insufficient power in my collection of Apple devices is the ultimate in first world problems. It's not a matter of life and death, and that it's an issue that can be very easily fixed. But I'm now wondering what would happen if I ever found myself hooked up to a life support machine and the power started to run low on one of my children's iPhones. I've got a bad feeling about that. Anyway, that's my gripe of the day. I'd love to hear yours. What is it that grinds your gears, gets your goat, and generally butters your proverbial parsnips? The daily gripe therapy session will return. That's going to wrap up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like. No idea what that was. A leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around for that, then please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around for the crack immediately after this final word from our show sponsor. Right, back to the original show theme. Yeah, that sounds about right. I changed up the music yesterday, you may remember. Felt weird. Changed it back today. Let's go back to the very beginning of the chat. Who was the first off the mark? As he so often is, it was Mr. Hatcher himself. Good morning, Ken. Hope you're fit and well, my friend, down in Wales. Looks like you've got the mixed bag of weather as well. weird weather here. As I say, we had at 4 o'clock this morning, we had a thunderstorm. We had absolutely torrential rain, and yet it is as warm as toast right about now. Sweating quite nicely. Yeah. Dan Cullen is in the house. Morning, Dan. I hope you're fitting well, my friend. Hope the groups are going well for you. Steve Williamson back from his honeymoon. The honeymoon period literally is over for Steve Williamson. Welcome back, Steve. Are you back at work now? But you probably are. Dan Cullen says, how is everyone? Yes, how is everyone? I do always start with how the devil are you doing this fine day. Very rare to get an answer, but hope you're all doing well. Who else have we got here? Better late than never, Mr. Anthony. I don't know. I can only assume. I don't even know what to assume. I looked at the clock and thought, I've got about 10 minutes to go. I'll go make myself a cup of coffee. I came back and the clock on my computer said, you should be live now. So, yeah, a bit hasty, I'm afraid. Stephen Guthrie's here as well. Morning, Stephen. Hope you're fitting well. A lovely good morning to all. Not that lovely out the window at the moment, but thank you very much indeed for that. There is Mr. Muirhead, provider of today's question of the day, which will come to in just a second. Are you crisps in or are you crisps out? And I have a funny feeling that I'm going to find myself in the minority on this one. Lou Carney is here as well. Says, morning. Back to you, Lou. Hope you're fit and well. Hope everybody is sending you messages of love and gratitude after plant work. 'Twas awesome. Well done. There is Dan saying good morning. Yes, now I'm going to throw this back up again. There you are, world premiere. That is the Jumbo, as our friends at Despay have called it. Despay, one of the demolition companies that I admire most in the world. They've taken delivery of that. I can tell you, and I had to research this. I didn't realise this, but the Caterpillar 6015B mining excavator upon which that is based is actually built in Indonesia. Did not know that, but it is. It's built in a place called Batam in Indonesia. And when it rolls off the production line there, it weighs in at about 154 tons, give or take a bit, depending on what equipment's on it. That's 154 tons. That machine now is working in Bergamo in Italy, and it now weighs 351 tons. Oh boy, have they added some beef to that, and it really is. Doesn't reach that high, as you can see. It's not designed for major height. It is designed for maximum power, and oh boy, is it powerful! I'll bore you with the details when we actually play the thing on the 28th, at 7 p.m. on the 28th. But it is by far one of the most impressive machines I have ever seen in action. So there is my question of the day: when eating a sandwich, are you crisps in or crisps out? As a child, very much crisps in. But as I've got older, and I guess. When you get to a certain age, your teeth start to spread for one thing anyway. So I've had a bit of that. But as a result of, funny enough, I mentioned it earlier, as a result of my demolition accident, it basically fractured the roof of my mouth. And as a result, I lost a couple of teeth right at the very back, but it also kind of shifted some of them around. So I'm very, very conscious of stuff going up between teeth and lodging themselves either in my gums or, when I'm thinking about this late at night and I'm half asleep, lodging themselves in my brain. I am deeply, deeply concerned about a large piece of kettle chip shrapnel finding its way into my brain and killing me outright or rendering me disabled. That's why I am crisps out, and I place each crisp flat upon my tongue so that there is less chance of fallout. I know it makes me sound like a weirdo, but that's where I am. First answer was Ken Hatcher, who says he is very much crisps in. I'm going to say good morning to Jim Turner. Morning, Jim. Hope you're well and fit, my friend. Steve Williamson, crisps in. Cheese and onion flavour. Yeah, I've never been much of a cheese and onion fan. Do like me a salt and vinegar. Do like me a black pepper and sea salt. Oh, now we're talking. Glenn Johnson's here as well. Morning, Glenn. Thank you for joining us. Gary Muirhead, who originated the question in the first place, is crisps in. Is that what prompted the question? Were you actually loading your sandwich with crisps and thought, am I weird? Do other people do it differently? Well, thank you for the question anyway. Morning, says Peter McKenna, our friend's sick note. Lovely weather here in Preston. Job rained off, too wet for doses. Yeah, lovely weather, rained off. Yeah, as I say, not me, but we had a couple of text messages from my son's girlfriend, who was, should I say, sleeping in a teepee at Box Hill, 5 miles up the road from where I'm sat right now, and the heavens open. And the children she's with, I think, are 6, 7, 8 years old. So obviously booms of thunder were quite definitely, the end of the world. So there were screams and tears. She's had 3 hours sleep. She is soaking wet. Everything is soaking wet. The children are hating every minute of it. And I think she's got another couple of days of it to go, which is fantastic. Peter McKenna is another of the crisps in gang. I am apparently very much in the minority. Dan Cullen says, a crisp sandwich. A crisp sandwich. Used to do that as a kid. Did anyone ever have a sugar sandwich back in the day? Am I showing my age? Am I showing the fact? Am I displaying my humble origins? Did anybody else have a sugar sandwich? I think my mum would have frowned upon it. I don't think she was aware that I was making sugar sandwiches. But yes, sun-blessed bread, big pile of butter on it, sugar. Nectar of the gods, people. If you haven't had one, go do it. Especially giant prawn whatsits on chicken tandoori sub rolls. I'm not entirely sure how some of you have made it to the ripe old age that you are. There is Steve Williamson with his spicy banana pizza, and now giant prawn whatsits on chicken tandoori sub rolls. You people have the constitution of an ox. That's all I can say. Jim Turner says, question of the day, definitely love a crisp sandwich, but not crisps mixed with other sandwich fillings. Yeah, I can see that. Listen, this is a fairly recent thing, and it's only because of my terror of death by crisp. But back in the day, cheese, Branston pickle, salt and vinegar crisps, or better still, ready salty crisps, I was fully on board with that. And then I got the fear. Stephen Guthrie is here as well. Love a crisp sandwich. Looks like we could start a new line of crisp sandwiches. The Breakfast Show crisp sandwiches, patented here right now. Let's have a look. Who else is joining the chat? Now, I've already said that you people eat some weird stuff. Get ready. Peter McKenna says, crisps in sandwich. How about cockles in crisps instead? How about that? Now, let me state for the record that being a Londoner, love me a cockle, love me a winkle, love me a whelk. If it crawls about the seabed, pretty much guaranteed I'll eat it. Love me a cockle. Never once have I thought of putting cockles in crisps. I can see the point, particularly if you've got your cockles with plenty of malt vinegar in crisps. Give it a bit of a shake. I'm going off at a tangent here, but I'll tell you, I've got a couple of things to tell you. Well, first and foremost is, I can take that off the screen now, can't I? 28th of June, 7 p.m. That's all you need to know. So, where was I going with this? Yes, there is an eatery down in Worthing, right on the seafront, called the Crab Shack. And one of the things that they do there is called cockle popcorn. They deep fry cockles in I'm guessing it's like a tempura batter, and you get them in like a cone, much as you would like a bag of crisps, a bag of chips, popcorn, cockle popcorn. It is the future, and I have tasted it many times. Awesome. Incidentally, I also spoke to my mate Dave Paget at Kent Demolition yesterday. The Kent County Fair is coming up very beginning of June. No, it's not. It's very beginning of July. And Kent Demolition will be there. I don't know if anybody else is planning to go to the Kent County Fair, but I just might. It's not a million miles away from me, and I may pop along, mainly because I like Dave and his daughter Elle, but also to have a look around. Not been to the Kent show before, been to the Surrey one, obviously, but never been to the Kent one. So if anybody fancies a trip to the Kent County show, let me know, and we may be able to meet up for those of you that miss me at Plantworks. And even if you go and I don't, go and say hello to Dave Paget and to his lovely daughter Elle. You'll thank me for it. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen says, wow, that skid steer looks awesome. I always had a question why the cage on side windows as cabs are ROPS. Somebody did have an answer to that. And it's Peter McKenna again. The cabs are ROPS, Dan, but I presume the bars on the windows are so the ex-cons that drive them feel at home. My apologies on behalf of Mr. McKenna to all skid steer loader operators that are currently watching. But thank you for that. Peter McKenna has also started saying hello to everyone to ensure that the show won't end. Peter, I appreciate the thought, but toilet breaks, I'm a man of a certain age, I can only go for so long. That's one of the challenges facing me with the planned marathon show that I'm going to do at some point in the not too distant future. This summer, I would say, is literally being able to go off and relieve oneself. Morning, Mr. McKenna. How the bejesus are you? That's a fantastic way to start the show. I always go for how the devil are you, but how the bejesus are you? Dan Cullen says, oh my God, that'll be a spectacular show. I'd feel like I've gone to heaven. That was XCMG. I'm going to say very quick good morning to our friend Mick. Morning, Mick. Thank you for being here. Going back to that, yeah, as I say, that's one, it's not a great life regret. It's not like the girl that got away or whatever it might be. I ended up with I hit the jackpot with mine, so that there isn't one of those. But literally, I was invited about it would have been about May or June time, and told to get ready to go to China. Quite a few hoops, or there was, I don't know about now, but there's quite a few hoops to jump through. Had to apply to the Chinese embassy for permission to go. As I say, various logistical hoops, which I did. I actually had my demolition accident in August 2016, but they basically had to wait for initially to wait for the swelling to go down. Then they had to wait for my my jaw to kind of mend itself back together again before they could operate. I mean, basically, I've got a false piece in my eye socket under there because it disintegrated on impact. So yes, I've been waiting the best part of about 3 years, and they finally came up and said, right, we're good to go. We're going to put your eye socket back together, because by this time my left eye had dropped and I had severe double vision. So they then came back and said, yep, we're going to fix it. And they decided they were going to fix it literally the day I was supposed to be going to China. So I had to phone XCMG and say, my deepest apologies, but I can't now come. I have worked with XCMG 2 or 3 times since. I think I'm still in their good books, but obviously COVID came along and made getting in and out of China somewhat problematic. But I have to say, if there was a single company in the world that I could visit right now, it would be XCMG. I'd love to go to China. I'd love to go and see the operation over there. And bearing in mind, I've done quite a few of the others anyway, and I've never been to XCMG, so that would be top of the list. Hey, you never know. May just happen. China makes some junk, but they don't mess about. No, they don't mess about. And Ken, you got to look around. You got to Plant Works. You saw Lugong. You saw Sunward. You saw XCMG. Junk? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I've said this before. I even said it at Plant Works, and I'll say it again. I'm old enough to remember when the first Japanese excavators arrived, and they were derided for being boxy. The cabs are too small. They rusted very quickly. Where are we now? Where are Komatsu and Hitachi now? Absolute market leaders. I was also on writing about this stuff when the Koreans first arrived. Now look at Doosan, Devolon, and look at Hyundai as well. And I think we're in exactly the same situation with China. The only difference is, I got the impression that the European manufacturers' excavators were here, and back in the day, the Japanese were way back there. I think the European manufacturers were there, and the Korean manufacturers were back there. I reckon the Europeans are there, and the Chinese are about there. They're that close. Watch them, watch them, watch them. There are some fantastic machines coming out of China. And set aside concerns and prejudices, trust me, there's some very, very good equipment coming out of China. I'm okay, Dan, says Peter McKenna. Yes, we're going to get graphic, people. Sounds horrible, but I'm okay, Dan. Got a sore toe after my son's dog jumped on it at the weekend. What kind of dog was it? injures your toe by jumping on it. But Peter then goes on to say, it's black and blue with goo exiting multiple sites. Sorry if anybody's eating their breakfast at the moment. Goo exiting your toe. Steve Williamson says, it's amazing. The past couple of years, other countries around the world have come so much more advanced. The UK really needs to wake up. XCMG, wow, what a video. Yeah, and there's a bit of a theme there, because Ken Hatcher then says, manufacturing in the UK is about finished, unfortunately. I wish I could sit here and argue with you, but it would be so nice to be able to list UK manufacturers that are doing well. But once you've gone past JCB and Thwaites, you're kind of struggling a bit, aren't you? And yes, I realise that Caterpillar makes equipment in the UK. It's not a UK manufacturer, is it? I realise that Komatsu makes machines here in the UK, but it's not a UK manufacturer. I realise they're manufactured here, but they're not a UK manufacturer. In terms of pure UK manufacturing, JCB, Thwaites, and then you're struggling a bit. Now, conveyors. Let's talk conveyors. At some quarries, you load directly from the belt. Yes, you absolutely do. Dan Khan says, I feel hydrogen as batteries cause too much waste. And yes, I agree. Conveyor belt is a great alternative option, as some go as high as 90 feet. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I was just watching that video, and it was me that added the music to it, so I hope that was okay. It just struck me. If you remember rightly, we've been talking recently about wheel loader safety in quarries, mines, transfer stations, waste facilities and the like, and the need for reversing cameras and personnel detection systems and all that kind of thing. And my personal take on that is, would you not be better off just having wheel loaders operating where there are no people wandering about the place? Well, one of the solutions to that, surely, is to put conveyors in place. So rather than using a wheel loader to haul material over an extended distance, take that out and have a conveyor system instead. And then the conveyor system feeds to a stockpile area, and all of the wheel loader there needs to do is to load trucks. No people allowed on foot, just load the trucks. So you've probably taken out one, possibly two, on a bigger operation, possibly even 3 or 4 wheel loaders. You've reduced your fuel cost, you've reduced your wear and tear cost, you've reduced your capital cost on buying the wheel loader in the first place. No more tyre wear, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Your site is as safe as houses, and it's costing you an awful lot less. This may be happening. This is not my area of expertise, but I watched that last night and I thought, now that's a thought. They had stocking conveyors years ago, NCB, Colt, etc., says Ken Hatcher. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I do think the mining and the mining and quarrying industry, because it operates for prolonged periods of time in exactly the same place. I realise faces move and stuff like that, and benches and stuff like that. But because it operates in the same place, the same location for a prolonged period of time, I think there is room for investing. So you blast. We've all seen these crusher and conveyor trades. So you blast, load the crusher, and then the crusher feeds onto conveyor, which goes back up the line, and it is ultimately further processed and then loaded out. I don't think construction, and certainly demolition, do the same. I know some smaller operations use conveyor belts where you can't actually get a machine, down a back alley or something like that, and I think those are very, very good indeed. But are we doing things the right way? And again, I realise it's a weird analogy to draw, but think about how I pivoted from magazine journalism to doing what I'm doing. It was forced upon me. COVID came along, couldn't do what I was doing before, and therefore I had to shift. We are now facing issues with the rise in the cost of diesel, and the fact that diesel is on its way out anyway. Is that time for us to all take a big step backwards and think, are we actually doing things the best way? Rather than waiting for electric or hydrogen wheel loaders to be introduced to have the bugs ironed out? Could we not just switch parts of our operation to conveyors and do away with them entirely? I apologise to anybody that drives a wheel loader if I've just threatened your job. I apologise also to wheel loader manufacturers who may sell a few less machines as a result. But given the fact that we have a fuel cost crisis, we also have an environmental crisis on our hands, maybe we do need to take that big step backwards and think about doing things in a different way. Jim Turner says, I think Collins Earthworks, Demolition, use conveyors to stockpile material. I'm sure there's a few on his job in Sheffield. Be interested to see. Collins Earthworks, if you're watching, please let us know. HS2, says Peter McKenna, has had to use conveyors to cut down on HGV movements, but most quarries don't always have the space to utilise conveyors, and shovels tend to do multiple jobs, so getting rid of one or more is not always the option. Again, I've always had a slight issue with wheel loader load and carry operations, and I don't know quite what defines a load and carry operation, but you know that idea of wheel loader picks up a bucket load of material and then drives 100, 200, 300 meters. That's not an efficient way to do it. That wheel loader is too heavy on fuel, too expensive to buy, to be going back and forth doing shuttle runs. Surely that sort of operation, conveyor, particularly given the fact that conveyors are as mobile as they are, the cleaner ones that we saw just now, they're all on tracks, press of a button and get there somewhere else. Surely. Steve Williamson says quality gear from Dynaset, totally agree. That street cleaner looks top gun, has a great system. Yep, totally agree. Ken Hatcher also likes the Dynaset system. The hardest thing in the UK for sweepers is getting rid of the waste, says Peter McKenna, as once it's lifted, it then becomes a controlled waste, has to be disposed of at a specialist waste disposal site. Listen, I realise that what comes out of the back end of cars and vans and buses and so on down the line, I realise it's not particularly pleasant. But how is it that we as a nation and as a society of people, we are quite happy to walk down a street where there is contamination within the water that's on the road, there's contamination within the air that we're breathing through exhaust emissions and the like, and yet as soon as somebody starts to take care of it, they suddenly have an administrative hoop to jump through. Nothing changed. Picking up some contaminated water didn't make it more contaminated. So we're quite happy as a nation and as a society to walk down streets where we're breathing in noxious fumes and we are walking through noxious puddles of water. But as soon as somebody comes along and clears up those noxious puddles of water, suddenly it becomes a specialist waste and a controlled waste. Funny that. Is it available in the UK yet? I think most of the Dynaset product range is available here in the UK, but go to dynaset.com, have a look. I'm sure there are multiple UK dealers that will be able to help you out. Adding water means it becomes contaminated water, and this is even more of a problem to get rid of. So without wanting to go on an anti just spotted one of the later comments. I'm going to get to that in just a second. So I don't want to go on an anti-government rant, but here's the thing. Government departments are allowing water companies to pump raw sewage into the nation's rivers. And yet, somebody picking up rainwater and some debris off the road, that's contaminated waste. Anybody else now looking at the screen and shouting, double standard? Just me then. Steve Williamson says there's a few companies that sell Dynaset products in the UK. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Do you turn green when you're angry, Mark? I do not. That would be a fantastic party trick though, wouldn't it? No, I go slightly red around the edges. Do as Dan does, portable chargers. Now, herein lies another problem. Is it to hand? Is it to hand? So, so you see that? That right there is a portable charger, kindly gifted to me by the fine folks at Volvo. It's brilliant, brilliant. Holds enough power to recharge your phone twice over. As you can see, nice and slim, pocket size, awesome piece of kit. I own 3 of these. I have 1. Those 2 have gone walkabout. Yeah. Now this goes to show what an anorak I am, right? So back long, this would have been actually, Jesus, I've just realised how long I've had this thing. When I first went freelance, I was doing quite a bit of travel. We were working with the likes of Caterpillar, so travelling across Europe and beyond, over into Africa and the Middle East quite a bit. So early doors, I went out and I bought that. I don't know if you can see that particularly well, but it is one of these travel chargers with multiple, I can't even get the damn thing to work, but multiple different types of chargers available for it. I've owned that very one for about 32 years. It's been around the world with me. It's been to America multiple times. It's been to Japan. It's been to Egypt, to Morocco, to Turkey, to France, to Germany, to Spain, to Italy, to Norway, Sweden, Finland. It's been everywhere. I guard it with my life. Several of my children have said, we're going on holiday, any chance we can borrow your travel charger? And every single time they come back, and I always ask, where's my travel charger? And the answer, and I'm sure they're doing this just to wind me up, is, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure if I brought it home. Thankfully, they always have. But I have now been out and bought another one, which is not as good as that one, and that's the one I give out. So, my children can't be trusted with anything electronic. Jim Turner says, sounds like he needs a slap. Yep, he does need a slap. The problem with children, and I don't know whether this is unique to me, children are quite big these days, aren't they? Like Fred, I go 5'10" if I stand very, very upright. Fred goes 6 foot. Outweighs me by a couple of stone. If I were to give him a slap, I'd get a slap back and I'd probably end up in hospital. Thankfully, on this occasion, Fred wasn't to blame, and the other son is a little bit smaller than me, so maybe there is a slap in order. Bloody groups, can't keep up, umpteen texts a day to add to the groups. I'm in excess of 9,000 now altogether. Well done, Dan. £1 per person to keep the groups free from spam and security of their details. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The moment you can get that thing monetized, Dan, and I know you're doing it for altruistic reasons, but the sooner you can get it monetized or sponsored, the sooner you can then upgrade the system to make it more accessible, and then the whole thing will just roll on and work very well. I have salt butties. Naughty, yes, but nice. I do like a bit of salt. Doesn't sit well with my diabetes, but I do like salt, but I'm not sure I can go that far. Chris Wall, morning Chris, thank you for joining us. Crisps in, have you tried a What's It? Bit softer on the gums. I'm revealing far too much about myself, like my anorak approach with chargers and things like that. I have a bit of a weird relationship with crisps. I don't like What's It's. I don't like Monster Munch because I don't like the texture. And yet, love me a skip. Big grab bag of skips. Awesome. I like the melty. I don't like that. What's It's to me always tastes like the sort of thing that you put around a parcel. Stop it breaking. I can't remember what they're called, but you get the idea. Yeah, not a fan. Mick Norton says paprika crisps in. Mick Norton, see, clearly a very posh person. They have paprika crisps where Mick comes from. We make do with ready salted little bag of. We don't have those. Steve Williamson, who we can rely upon to come up with something nobody in their right mind would want to eat. Try crushed spicy Wotsits on top of macaroni and then back in the oven for a few minutes. Delicious. See, I could understand that if we were talking about a man who was single, living in digs, away from home, long away from his mum, who was doing the proper cooking, or not with his wife. Steve Williamson, you are now a happily married man. Drop the spicy Wotsits on top of your macaroni and start to eat like a grown-up man, would you? Peter McKenna, I love Wotsit butties with Hellman's mayonnaise. See, don't do mayonnaise either. We all say China made is crap, but you'd be amazed on what they make. Things for the likes of Apple, etc. Yeah, Chinese born. A 27 kilogram mini XL Bulldog. Yeah, that would bruise your toe. That would definitely bruise your toe. I heard JCB 80% of their stuff is made abroad. I think that's one of those things. It rather depends how you measure it, because when you think a lot of their steel comes in from Sweden, Scandinavia, obviously they are manufacturing in other parts of the world as well. A lot of the electronics will be coming in from the Far East as well. So I think if you're talking about by value, I would imagine it probably would be around about 80%. But in terms of actual volume, bearing in mind they make their own engines and stuff, you can make statistics say anything you like. In 2023, says Mick Norton, the Chinese produce high quality and reasonably priced plant and equipment. Let's not forget Caterpillar's core products are still manufactured in China, including 360 shovel loaders, soil compactors, graders and paving products. Yes. Even, as I said earlier, this, look at that. 351 tons of demolition magnificence, and it originates from Indonesia. The base does anyway. A lot of the add-ons, well, all of the add-ons, I think, originate in Italy, a bit closer to home. But yeah, that machine actually is built in Indonesia. Who knew? The UK may mark improve the planet and cost you more. That's about the size of it, isn't it? No, that's not working. That's better. But the rain washing down the roads down the drain, then out to sea and rivers. So what's the difference with cleaning it? True enough. I have 3, also 2 at 20,000 mph and 1 at 40,000. Not sure. Yes, kids are too big nowadays. My lad is 16, taller and heavier than I am, but I still best him at the moment. I may have mentioned this before. My dad, sadly no longer with us. My dad was a wiry little fella. Went 5'8", never weighed more than about 9.5 stone his entire life. But somehow managed to be scary in a sort of Barry McGuigan-esque kind of way. I got to 16, and by that time I was probably 2 inches taller and a good stone, maybe even 2 stone heavier than him. And I challenged him to an arm wrestle, and I won. And for a nanosecond, I've beaten my dad. I've slain the dragon. I have beaten my hero. And then the gravity of that was, I just beat my hero. Wish I hadn't had that arm wrestle now. C'est la vie. Think on your household items, mostly from China. Yes, I'm sure they are. I'm at the point now where I don't even bother to check any longer. I just accept, we live in a global world. Global world, is that really a thing? But we do live in a global world. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not entirely bothered where I get my stuff from. Maybe I should be. Maybe I should. Maybe I should be advocating buy British. But a lot of the stuff that I want and that I need, you can't buy British. It's made somewhere else. For example, I'm in the market for a new camera. This isn't the conversation that I normally have. It's usually Fred saying, I'm in the market for a new camera. And then we have to go and find a way to actually fund it. But I, personally, am in the market for a new camera. There is a new, I think it's called the Canon PowerShot V10, if anybody's interested remotely. It is basically a dedicated vlogging camera. So it looks not unlike that, but it has a little flip-up screen so you can see what you're filming, and the camera or the lens points this way, so it points at you. I've been talking about doing a vlog here for quite some time, and I've always put it off because it's a bit of a ball ache to put that on a selfie stick and set the right camera up and all the things. Whereas this, you literally switch it on, press record, and you're good to go. Hold it at arm's length, got a nice wide field of vision, and I'm recording right there and then. It's got very good audio on it as well. I would plug in a microphone, but it is very, very good without. So it's about 470 quid, and I'm going to get myself one, and I'm hoping to get myself one. I'm not entirely sure about the availability. I was only reading up on it last night, but I'm hoping to get myself one before I go off to Germany in August, because I think it would be a good addition to the armoury. And I was just thinking about, so for example, yesterday I did the show, did a bit of work. I'm still working on a social media playbook for another publishing company, but then I had to go out and flit about the place. All the time I'm flitting about the place, I could have been doing something. I could have actually been producing content, stream of consciousness, vlog style stuff, but that doesn't quite cut it. So yes, I'm in the market for a Canon PowerShot V10, and I'm hoping to find somebody to say, I know, Mark, I'll buy that for you in the form of sponsorship, 470 quid, and you can do us some social media stuff. We shall see. Watch this space. Going back to that was Dan talking about his charges, so clarified that. I'll be fighting until one taps out. Think I'll be one tapping out if he gets much bigger. Yeah, absolutely right. We are changing the car, going electric. So doing some research on it at the moment and what to go for. An electric car would suit me personally down to the ground, because I don't go very far. But there's a drive outside, there's a couple of cars parked out there at the moment. There's probably room for one more. I could go electric tomorrow and not have to worry about it too much. Might have to occasionally swap cars with my wife if I was doing longer distances and I didn't want the ball ache of having to charge en route and stuff like that. I could make that work. But I know people that do a fair few miles, and it's almost become their life's work, planning their route via superchargers, staying in hotels where there is available power, rewiring their house to make sure that they're getting the best possible deal on their electricity and being able to charge their car as quickly as possible. It's an absolute minefield. I don't blame you, Steve. Don't blame you at all. And cost and everything else, I do think there are certainly benefits. And if somebody offered me a Tesla tomorrow, I would snatch their arm off. But there are challenges that go with it. And as we saw earlier this year, the queues at these superchargers on sort of the M40 and the M1, that's a major issue, I think, if you're doing any sort of distance. And also, while you're doing your research, go back and have a look at the article that Rowan Atkinson wrote. I think it was for the Telegraph, where he was talking about the fact that he believed he had been duped into buying his electric car. In actual fact, there's a guy on YouTube. You search for I can't remember what the guy's name is, but there's somebody on YouTube who is a real car enthusiast, has done kind of a reaction video to Rowan Atkinson talking about the issues of electric cars Makes for very interesting reading, or listening, or watching, if you see what I mean. Dan Kahn says, to make a Tesla, 850,000 litres of water. Yeah, but it doesn't go anywhere. I listen, I know. But what was that thing I was taught back in school? That it is impossible to create or destroy matter. So yes, you might use 850,000 litres, but that doesn't mean that the ocean levels drop by 850,000 litres, because it all just goes round and round. And yes, contamination, we've already spoken about that. Yes, energy usage, I'm aware. But is it because we are now more environmentally aware that we've started to have these discussions? Because if you think about how cars have traditionally been built, I realise that the car companies have cleaned up their act now, but those car companies that used to make, let's go back to British Leyland here in the UK back in the 70s. How much water were they using? Were they that concerned about how clean that water was before it went back into the system? What were they doing with waste oil? What were they doing with waste plastics and metals? Were they that concerned? And yet, now we're talking about electric vehicles, we suddenly seem to have got all holier than thou, and we expect anybody producing an electric machine or an electric vehicle to suddenly be able to create it out of thin air. Why did we not judge petrol and diesel companies in the same way? Because I don't think we did. And then to put out an electricity fire is similar. That is a concern. Obviously, there is the concern over electric cars breaking down in that they just stop. So I think that was one of the things that probably killed our smart motorway scheme here in the UK. But if you went back, let's say you went back 35 years and you were out on the road and you broke down, you had two options. You could either walk to find a payphone, hope you had change, hope that the phone box hadn't been vandalised, hope that you could get hold of somebody, and hope that somebody could come and rescue you. And we got by. We now have mobile phones that if you break down, you can drop a pin, tell the AL, the RAC, or whoever, and they will come and rescue you. We adapted because things had changed. Did they get better? Yes, probably. They probably did. I mean, I used to quite enjoy skiving off on afternoons when I'd finished work early, didn't go back to the office, just went off somewhere else, fishing quite often. And because I was uncontactable pre-mobile phones, I'd get away with it and nobody would be any the wiser. So, by and large, the advent of mobile phones has been a step forward. Ultimately, we have to adapt. We have to adapt to take into account issues with the environment. And if that means that we are going to embrace electric cars, not just Teslas, but electric cars as a whole, particularly for short journeys. Would I ever want a smart car? No, I would not want a smart car. I'm sure they're perfectly good. If everyone's got one, good luck to you. But why have we not got little, let's call them town cars? Literally sort of one or at a push two people, enough room for a bag of shopping that you use to pop to the shops. And rather than them costing 10, 15, 20,000 pounds, get the price down to about 3 or 4 grand, so that those people like me who does virtually no miles day to day. I do go a bit further, but I borrow the wife's car for that. For day to day, to pop into the shops, pop in to get my hair cut or my beard trimmed, or whatever it might be. Something low cost, low emission, low fuel usage, be that electric, diesel, petrol, hydrogen, unicorn tiers, whatever it might be. Why do we not have that? We know the issues, we know the challenges, and surely with the potential volume you could sell them at, it would it probably costs a fortune to make a single the Gatti Veyron, which is why they cost 4 million quid, because you're only going to sell 1 or 2 a year. You're not going to sell great volumes of them. But you imagine, much the same, imagine London, reimagine London, like the way that Rome works. Rome works on a system of Lambrettas and Vespas. As much as I like a Lambretta or a Vespa, and I'd love both, mainly to look at, but I'd like both. But imagine something that is, comfortable. Just hop in, press a button, pop to the shop, come back, stick it back on charge, and forget about it for a couple of days. You could produce them by the hundreds of thousands, get the manufacturing costs down to virtually nothing, and you could improve the planet at the same time. Would that not be a good idea? See, one of these days, when somebody realises that I should rule the world, I'll make all of this happen. But until then, I'll be back here again tomorrow at 10 a.m. for more of the Breakfast Show. Don't forget, 7 p.m. on the 28th of June, we will be bringing to you live, for the first time ever, the world premiere of The Jumbo. A film featuring me, but produced by my son, Fred. And we produced a film a couple of years back with Armac Demolition. And at the time that we filmed it, I actually said to Fred that he'd hit a high watermark. That was as good a video as he has ever produced. It was top notch. The one that he's produced for The Jumbo is even better. So, if you fancy giving us 10 minutes of your time, we can have a chat afterwards if you like. More than happy to do that. But you can tune in, watch The Jumbo, and then go about your evening. 28th of June, 7 p.m. I'll be here to take you through it. But I'll be back again tomorrow, 10 a.m. More of the Breakfast Show. Lord alone knows what will be on that show. I didn't expect to be discussing crisps and electric vehicles and conveyor belts, but that's just the way the show rolls. So if you fancy a bit more of that tomorrow, please join us. If you don't, I wouldn't blame you. But until then, everybody, have a great day, regardless of what the weather's doing. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best.